is Samira from .com to talk about trauma-informed coaching. Let me know when you hop on. Figuring out situation close as in me into having it all figured out. But I thought that I would come on. We would start and work through it. So happy you're here. Maybe I'll take screen share. Let me know on how you're doing, how your day's going. Let me tag a few people to be here. And we will jump in Eastern, and so I know are as well. Entire. If you're on, you know that you're on. Let me know that you're here, so I can celebrate here. Let me people, and we will jump in about sharing with that we're going to go through, and we're just gonna tonight so that you can get a better of how to really how to really your work with. I posted a little bit earlier, and we can, right? We can know that come from a that are going in and out. Okay, that helps. Now, and can knows you know different. You're coming from a more professional therapy or coaching with the sound. Let me go into and just check. Let me see if that's better. Let me know. Our volumes turned all the way up. Be going in or out. Had more tense. It to say the least. It holds out for this. My head. I have to go into the app straightened out. Just like retrograde kind of state. And it doesn't even hear yet. Let me know, Hannah. And pray that it, and that if there's an issue that it clears. Just checking to see if I can do in the streaming portal any volume. Okay. Comment, but let me know. I'm not sure. Volume went into settings to see if, on my end, um, I the Bluetooth to see if, um, it gets, let me see if how about now? Let's see if that clears. It shouldn't impact, it does. Um, so let me just check and see. Let me know now if that's better. That might be better. If you're on live, let me know if you can hear how it sounds on your end. I changed which microphone it's using. Okay, perfect. Yay. And hopefully I can go back to screen sharing and it still sounds okay. Let me know if you can still hear it okay, Diana. Thank you for helping me troubleshoot. We love technology and we love how stable and supportive it is and how consistent it is. I'm so grateful for technology, and some days it has its own days as well. The Chrome browser was giving issues and not letting me screen share. So, okay, perfect. So my husband helped me to use Safari and then it's screen sharing. And so now hopefully the volume's fixed and we are um, good and ready. Perfect. Thank you, Diana. So we're just checking out the trauma informed session tracker that's almost ready for you guys to download. Of course, it's part of the program as well, but I want you guys to have this for being part of the Masterclass series on trauma informed leadership. Whether you purchase the program or not, I wanted to support you in what you're doing. And so as I was saying before the volume shenanigans, sometimes we can have all of this knowledge, right? I know it was true for me, and all of this, like skill set, and I want to be able to you guys to see me better. All of these skill sets, and we can be unsure how to put it all together. Sometimes we're unsure of how to. Um, Distill it down so that people can really utilize it in good ways. Hi, Lakia. And so I want this to be able to be of support to you. Let me just make sure that you're still able to see this, even when I change screens here. Hopefully you can. It's just giving a second. Okay, perfect. And so let me just make it a little bit smaller so you can see all of it. Hang on. Let me just make it smaller too. Okay. And see if that's better. It's like the little engine that could. It is gonna work beautifully. Perfect. Okay, great. So when we think about our sessions, and I know many of you come up against this because you guys reach out to me. We are able to chat about it. Some of you have hired me for mentorship and professional development. I have mentored therapists in training, like interns for years now, just in terms of how to really conceptualize what you're doing with clients. And sometimes it can feel really lofty. I don't always believe that we are quite clear on how we're putting everything together to best support clients the way that we want to be. And so let me just close down my messenger. I'm not even sure what's happening here. So when we think about the first question, identifying patterns or an origin point, and we're going to go deeper on this in the program, but I want you guys to have like a framework of how to incorporate this in your current work if it's appropriate for the work that you're doing. When we think about where people are stuck, it's usually going to come down to a certain area, right? Where they're stuck in. And it's going to have something to do with a trauma response, usually, and those emotionally charged responses. We're going to think about fight or flight, freeze or fawn, and it's usually something that's like a stuck point or trauma response that's getting in the way of what the client is wanting. So the goal that they're coming to you to work on, right, in a coaching container, in a coaching package, they have usually come to you for support around them being stuck and wanting support on how to move through it. And when we're able to identify the pattern, right, it's going to help us to conceptualize the work that we're doing. Sometimes clients are going to know what the stuck point is, they're going to know what support they're needing from you. And sometimes they don't know, and they really are going to need you to help them kind of flush it out and create a plan. When we're able to, and we're going to go over how to do that in the program. So it's not going to be a guessing game. You're not going to walk away like being unclear of what you're doing. But this tracker is just to support you in understanding that there is a structure, and this can help you whether you sign up for the program or not. Clearly, if you sign up for the program, you're going to learn the techniques, the frameworks, and the practices to move you through how to do this in a good way. So, when you think about the core emotions that are associated with the pattern, these are some major ones that are going to pop out, right, for you. And there are more. This is not an exhaustive list, right? But these are major ones, and these are ones that tend to come up consistently, really, in any situation that you're working with, whatever the content is, whatever like the narrative someone is sharing with you. I hate my job. I want to lose weight. I'm stuck in my relationships. I'm stuck around communication. I can't get my business to work. I'm struggling with parenting. I'm having breakdowns in my relationships, my parenting. What the list is exhaustive, right? Whatever folks are coming to you around or with. I'm having health problems, right? I've gone to different health professionals. I've gotten some support. I'm still struggling. Whatever their thing is, you're going to want to identify what are the core emotions that are associated with the pattern. When you're able to do that, you're better able to support them and beginning to unravel those core issues. When we think about the subconscious, hi Lakia, thank you. I worked on it with a beginner in mind, also with folks who've been doing this for a while, but they're wanting to go deeper with people faster, right? Lakia is a therapist also and a coach, and you should really check her out and her work. Um, and what we can find as we go deeper with people is like, okay, I want to help get people results. Um, Faster, right? Healing takes time. There's no way around that. And when we are really efficient in our process, when we have frameworks, when we have methods that we can use to move people through their healing process easier, and in a more efficient way, it's better for you as the practitioner and it's better for them. A lot of the support and trainings and modalities that I have learned and become certified in that went beyond my degree, right, was because I, as a survivor, realized I did not want to spend 20 years working on my trauma. I didn't have 20 years. At the time, I had a young child depending on me to get myself together. And so I couldn't wait until she was 20 to figure out how to live well and thrive, right? And be able to live life from a place of wholeness versus woundedness. And so traditional talk therapy wasn't. It wasn't all that I needed, right? For deep rooted trauma, for learning how to thrive when I hadn't seen it done, right? When I had really only ever seen surviving and people really doing their best and trying to just make it. When I wanted more than that, I had to figure out, okay, how do you create that? If you don't come from that and you're not for sure how to really learn it, then how do you get those tools and skill sets, right? And so part of this work is that answer to that. When we begin to look at our subconscious beliefs that are stored under our core emotions and our core stories, everyone has a core emotions, right? It's kind of like what your baseline is if you don't do any kind of work on yourself, right? Or it's kind of like a baseline, even if you do work on yourself, like if you take time off and you're not doing it, where do you kind of settle? Some people are naturally like high energy, some people are naturally low energy, some people are naturally just a little more sad than others, some people are naturally happy all the time no matter what, some people tend to be on the depressed side of things, like naturally. Some people tend to be more on the glass is half full all the time. That's kind of where they live. We all have a baseline. We all have um, like a homeostasis, an emotional homeostasis. And so sometimes our core emotions are where our resting place is if we're not working on ourselves. Let me know if I seem frozen on Facebook. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing this well there. Sometimes our core stories are those stories that tend to consistently come up no matter what the content is. So it might be a core story around people always leave me. There might be a core story around I feel abandoned. There might be a core story around things don't tend to work out for me. There might be a core story around things typically feel difficult for me. There might be a core, thank you, Diana. There might be a core story around um, I can make money, but then I always either lose it or things come up where I have to spend it. I can't hang on to it. There might be a core story around your visibility. There may be a core story around growing your business. There may be a core story around even with trauma, right? We think about this idea of like a victim perspective. Sometimes we think about that as somebody who's always like, woe is me. The sky's falling, everything's terrible, woe is me. But that's not the only victim narrative. Sometimes it's I try so hard and things don't work out for me. I had a story for a long time around like tech stuff, like I'm not good at it, I can't figure it out. I really got to hire somebody to help me. And then I really had to go deeper and say, okay, what's the unconscious belief that's under that? And so when we begin to use different ways of supporting clients and figuring out and testing what their core stories is, many people who have done any work on themselves, they're aware of their core stories. Some people might not be, and there are ways, there are techniques to help them test what their core stories are. These are common ones here that I've listed for you. They're common ones that come up really despite what the content is, right? Despite what the person's coming to you about, the core story and the subconscious belief often rest in some version of this. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I can't trust people. I can't trust life. I don't feel seen or heard or both. That money's not safe for me, that life is not safe, that I'm not capable. No matter what someone's saying, like the actual words they're saying, oftentimes the story that's underneath that comes down to one of these subconscious beliefs. There are more. This is not all of them, but this is a strong foundation. Some combination of this is what most people are going to hover around when it comes to subconscious beliefs that are under those core emotions and core stories. There are exercises that we will go through to help you, support you in identifying your core stories and your core emotions, and then, of course, helping your clients to do the same. And so when we think about a session and like an intention for the work you're doing with somebody in a particular coaching package, right? Or program that you're offering, there's going to be an overall intention for what you're wanting to work through. And as you go through each of your sessions, multiple beliefs under that subconscious belief section might come up, and you'll want to focus on like one at a time depending on the capacity of that person's nervous system. I have clients and I have worked with people over time, over the years, who, once we really calibrate their nervous system, once we bring in safety and resourcing, which we'll cover a bit here tonight and that we cover much more deeply in the program, they're able to move through some of those subconscious beliefs rather quickly, right? There are still other people who need a bit more time, and it's not good or bad, right? It's equal but different. You'll have people, can you turn it down a little bit, babe? Thank you. You'll have people who can move through some of these faster, and you'll have people who may only need to focus on one per session, depending on how long your sessions are. Some people do half an hour sessions, some people do 45 or 60-minute, and some people offer like intensives that could be 90 minutes or 2 hours, right? So, depending on how much time you have, it's really going to depend on how deeply you can go. And it's also going to depend on how fast someone's nervous system is going to allow them to move through the content of what you're doing. So when we think about the deeper understanding around this, this just gives you a little bit of background around if someone survives their trauma, right? And if it doesn't kill them in the moment, they have survived it. What takes time and skill, and calm down, my friend. Calm down, my friend. Baxter, down. We have a puppy who has learned how to get on furniture. And so he needs lots of encouragement in not getting on furniture. When we think about where trauma comes from, it the trauma happens, right? And then a imprint is developed. If we survive the trauma, which most of us do, who are still actually like living right here, right now, what has happened is we have survived the trauma, and the imprint that is developed is what we then have to heal and work through. And when multiple traumas happen, that's how we develop complex trauma, right? And these kinds of complexity we're learning now from a neuroscience perspective comes through our DNA. It comes through generations. It can come through our actual cells and our DNA. And so when we think about the methodology that the body does keep score, and even if things haven't happened in our lifetime, there's an imprint that's there that we're finding in our generation, right, that needs to be worked through so we can be free of the dysfunctional patterns and behaviors, sometimes that are present in families for generations. And when we look at it and when we decide, okay, I don't want to live like this anymore, sometimes we're unclear of the next steps to take. Now, this is very clear, and we're going to go over this. Um, deeply in the program. There are acute traumas, there are people that haven't done um, the work to heal their trauma for whatever reason, right? And those kinds of scenarios need to be worked on with a trained um, therapist, I believe, who has a background in walking people through healing the trauma and the imprint um, that needs to be integrated. Where trauma informed coaching comes in and trauma informed facilitation is when people have a grasp on their trauma, they have done some integration work, and they're looking to go deeper in becoming the best versions of themselves. They realize that they have um, patterns that have come out of their adversity, that they have symptoms still that maybe even with all of the work they've done are still present, right? And they're wanting to go deeper on healing the imprint of trauma. That's where trauma informed coaching can come in. Trauma informed coaching does not replace trauma therapy when that is what's needed. And we're going to go over deeply within the program how to help someone identify their window of tolerance as well as your own, how to really support people in staying within their window of tolerance and knowing when someone is out of it, and that being a sign that somatic work is not healthy for them in this container, that they may be better off working with a trauma therapist that can help them to heal and to expand their window of tolerance so that they can do the deeper work, right? So we're going to go over ethics, we're going to go over when is it safe to support somebody with somatic work. We're going to go over when is it safe to allow someone to pause their work with you and get the support that they need, the trauma informed support, the trauma therapy support, right? And then come back to their work with you when they're in a better place to be able to do that work safely, because safety is the name of the game. When we talk about resourcing, we're talking about a specific skill set that people really benefit so much from learning how to do well, how to hold space for this kind of support. Um, it is, in a lot of ways, very simple. It's bringing in that felt sense of safety. It can be achieved in different ways. Um, you can do it in the present. You can take it back to the past moment, right? On a subconscious and unconscious level. We can support people in grounding. In each and every session, we can support people in grounding even as we go through different processes and frameworks with them, right? We are going to teach you how to really bring this aspect in to whatever modality that you're using. Whether it's an experiential modality, whether it is just a more traditional modality, whether it is a different kind of like healing modality, breath work, integration work, matrix work, whether you're doing coaching, mindset, whether you're doing behavioral modification, whether you're doing different types of therapies, right? If you're trained to do that kind of work, it's so important to make sure people are properly resourced. There are ways to be able to check and see what's currently supporting them with resourcing. You can see what people feel like they have on board as tools, but maybe it's not working as well. And part of the actual dynamic between the facilitator, the coach, the therapist, the healer, and the client is this felt sense around attunement, two people being together, bringing in attunement is part of the resourcing, and you want to equip people in how to bring that into their own system, no matter where they are, whether they're alone, whether they're feeling unsafe or activated or triggered. Resourcing is something that we can do for ourselves, that we need to do for ourselves, that we can teach our clients to do. We can teach our children to do it, right? Being trauma informed for me is a lifestyle, and you take this on and you support people in your communities, in your families, in your work, right? I believe that as we all become more trauma informed and aware of psychological safety, that is how we bring healing to humanity. And so when we are really looking at how to support people best, we're going to focus on supporting them with establishing internal safety, with being present, with knowing really what that means, how to embody it. We're going to work on really building a strong rapport. There are ways to do that. We're going to have compassion. We're going to lean into radical acceptance. We're going to look at our own biases and judgments and our worldview that can prevent us from being in radical acceptance, and that really needs to be looked at so that we are ensuring that we're not doing harm to people. There may be certain groups of people that it's best that you not work with, and that insight is important. And there may be things that you need to look at for yourself if they are activating for you, so that you're aware of that if it comes up in session with people. That's also part of the trauma informed framework. And so as you go deeper with this, you will learn how to begin to notice the signs for the initial imprints of what's happening around those core stories, around those core emotions. And sometimes there's a theme. Sometimes there's a theme of what someone's experiencing now that has come up in their life, in their work, in their relationships, in how they communicate, in how they express themselves. That's a long-standing pattern. So when we can identify this somatically as the trigger or the belief, we can begin to help them go back to when it began, when they remember feeling like that the first time, when they remember their earliest memory of that emotion or that state. Maybe it's shut down, maybe it's feeling numb around leaving their comfort zone, maybe it's shutting down right when they're about to try something new. They can track back to when that began for them, when they remember it. And again, as we said, in this week of master classes, we talked about we don't need to go digging around for stuff, right? We don't have to go with like a shovel in someone's history. There's a real nuanced way to really help people have that safety, bring in those internal resources where their subconscious feels safe to share what's right there. It's usually right there. And there's unconscious work and there's subconscious work that can support you with the right, powerful questions to ask to help the person be able to bring up the insight that they're needing to make um, in the session. It's not a scavenger hunt, and it doesn't need to be. What can be important is the right frameworks and methods and tools to help the client be able to um, allow what's there to come out, right, in a supported way. Baxter, no thank you, come down. When you think about the core emotions that are present, what can be helpful is to move away from talking about the emotion and about the story and about the content. There's a time and a place for processing, and there's a time and a place for sharing what happened, and there's a time and a place for sharing the context, right? And then there comes a time where we need to move through it, and we need to really look at the emotions and personify them, make them not so much words, and turn them into a scene. what it looks like, the color of it, the sensation that it produces in your body, um, whether it has a shape to it, right? When we talk from the emotion or from the wound or from the emotion that we're feeling, that's when we're able to really personify what's happening in our internal experience, but also create separation so that it's not enmeshed with us. We can begin to unravel it and create some separation so that we are able to support our clients and ourselves in knowing that we are not the emotion. We are not what happened to us, that the experience is separate from who you are. What you're feeling is separate from who you are. Your thoughts are separate from the essence of who you are. So much of our symptoms and so much of our disgruntledness, so much of our pain is really enmeshment. We have become enmeshed with what happened. We have become enmeshed with our situations and our circumstances, so much so that we have identified with our ego, that our essence is combined with our thoughts and our feelings and our ego, and it's one big web. And the important part of trauma informed coaching and really any healing modality that's done well within a trauma informed framework is going to help someone to personify what they're feeling. It's going to help them be able to go between what's alive for them, how they're feeling, and their own safety, that internal safety that we just talked about a few questions before. When we're able to bring in that safety and that grounding, we can then do the work around the core stories, around the core emotions, around those subconscious beliefs, and we can create a reality where we are not what we're feeling, where we are not the experiences that have happened to us, right? And so it's important to realize that when we're able to separate these aspects through processing techniques that we'll go over in the program, but that are centered around processing safely when it's appropriate, when it can be done in the window of tolerance, in people that are able to do it in a safe way because they have the foundation within their nervous system to do it, right? And if not, making sure that we are supporting them and getting linked up with the proper support, right, to do that work. If that's not if that can't be done properly in the coaching container that you have them in, right? So when we talk about the processing, it's not of any acute trauma. It's in enough context to share this is when the situation started. So for example, I began to have challenges around really speaking up for myself when my parents divorced. I remember specifically after the divorce, I stopped raising my hand in class. I stopped going out for clubs or sports. Whatever the storyline is, it's enough information that gives you an idea. It's not processing acute traumas that have yet to be integrated. That should be done with a licensed professional, right? In trauma informed coaching, we're focusing on emotional mastery and psychological safety, which can be done with appropriate processing and appropriate integration. And there are frameworks to help you with this. And so when that can be done safely on a behavioral level, on a somatic level, even on an unconscious and subconscious level, we're able to turn toward the emotion and tend it and befriend it versus what we're usually taught to do just in culture, just in society, right? Through distraction, through escaping, through numbing, through pretending like it's not there, through pretending like it's just going to go away magically, right? Magical thinking. When we're able to tend and befriend, Tara Brock does a lot of work around this in her work. She's on YouTube. Look her up if you aren't aware of her, Tara Brock. She has amazing work around radical acceptance. She has a book called Radical Acceptance, and she really talks about when we're able to tend and befriend, which really comes from like a Buddhist practice around befriending our emotion, making peace with it, understanding understanding that it's a part of who we are, but it's not the core essence of who we are. And when we're able to separate that, we're able to move through it in a much more holistic way, in an easier way, honestly, and in a much easier way. So when we think about the nervous system awareness, we're really going to start to notice the signs that someone's nervous system is giving us, right? And we're going to help them to be able to be with their nervous system in real time and notice the shifts and have a real somatic experience, right? Over time, somatic work is not always where we start, right? There's often work to be done on the mindset level, on the behavioral level, that can help us to establish grounding and resources. This is why you want to build a package or a program that really is aware of these different nuances, and helping people get the results that they want in a safe way through emotional mastery that really is anchored in psychological safety. Because when we start at the somatic level, but we're unsure if people have the regulation for it, if we're unsure if people have the grounding resources, and the resourcing internally, like the skill sets to do that. When you start with somatic work and you're unaware of those things, that's where we can create re-traumatization. That's where we can create people's systems going offline out of self-protection because they weren't aware that their system was even going to do that, because there wasn't aware that there was so much trauma that perhaps is not integrated, right? Because you might buy like a money program with someone and have all of this old trauma come up because you're not aware that it's there dormant in your system. Babe, can you turn it down, please? And you're not aware that it's not as integrated as you might think. And sometimes we're not aware until it comes up. That's why when we're doing transformation work with people, it's on us to take the onus of becoming trauma informed so we can create packages and programs and experiential experiences with all of this in mind, with trauma informed approaches in mind. Because as people, often we don't know what we need when we're trying to create transformation in our life. We just know that we want something to be different. We're not sure how to get there. If we did, we'd already be there. So we're trying to find support from people who we think are trained and aware that trauma informed care is a responsibility in leadership, and oftentimes that's not the case, and people are harmed because they are working with someone who's not trauma informed around transformation work that can cause re-traumatization. So when we are aware of the nervous system, different signs to look for, different signs to look for when someone is out of their window of tolerance, right? I may actually go back and put that on here. When you are looking at when someone's coming out of their window of tolerance, you're going to be looking for signs of distraction, dissociation. There might be hyperventilating. There might be like a physical distress, like someone might um, be tapping, fidgeting with something. They might begin to rock, right? And I know a lot of the work that people are doing, it's on Zoom. And so being able to see someone is going to be important. But there are signs, there are shifts in someone's voice. Sometimes there's tears. Sometimes there's just lack of concentration and focus. These can all be signs of someone's nervous system going offline and going outside of their window of tolerance. And so, of course, we're going to go over all of these safety guidelines in the program. But for here today, what's going to be helpful if someone you're working with is going out of their window of tolerance, you're going to want to focus on grounding them, bringing in those resources, right? Helping them ground back into here and now, really coming back into the present moment slowly, right? Stopping whatever somatic work you're doing, or really stopping whatever work you were just doing with them when they begin to move out of the window of tolerance, bringing them back into safety, um, and deciding from that point how best to move forward that is psychologically safe, and ethical, because perhaps the work that you're doing might be powerful, but it might be too much for their system at that time and in that moment. And perhaps that's what I was saying earlier. They might need to work with a trauma therapist, right? A licensed babe. It's just that, Baxter. It's just that when someone's working with a licensed professional to help them work through that unintegrated trauma that's causing them to consistently come out of their window of tolerance, and you'll be able to learn when it's that, when something's unresolved and needs deeper specialized work, versus someone might be triggered or activated and they just need more support around the grounding and the resourcing before they do that deeper work, and they may not be ready for somatic work, and that's a-okay, right? They may need more groundwork, right? More nervous system work before they begin to do the deeper work, and that's okay. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it's harder to support someone, it's harder to do it ethically, and it's harder to keep that psychological safety at the forefront. But I know that if you're here, that's a goal of yours. It's important to you to do this work in an ethical way. And that's why I'm here to support you. And some of this, right? Some of the things on this tracker, not all of these things might be done in a single session. There may be a combination of these points that are focused on in a session. And this might be the work that you would do over time within a package with someone, depending on what your intention is for that package. If they're working with you on um, better communication in their relationship, it would take some time to unravel where they're blocked in their communication, the unconscious and subconscious programming around those blocks, before you would weave in some of these other techniques, right? But you would get to a point where you would be able to support them in creating new meaning around the context of what they're working on with you. The mind is meaning making. It does have a purpose in creating narrative around our experiences, but it's important to challenge that narrative and to make sure that it's aligned with what we believe, that it's aligned with intention and with purpose, and that we're challenging what we are believing. That's how we grow as humans. And so when we look at any initial imprinting that's based in trauma or fear or deficiency, it's going to be important to really grow that up in terms of how can I call that forward? How can I heal that imprint to create meaning? Not that everything happens for a reason, but what am I going to define this as in my own life? Even if it was trauma, even if it was adversity, is it that I'm creating a story around surrendering it to a higher power, or a higher understanding in exchange for my own personal peace, right? Am I creating meaning around accepting what happened in my life, right? And deciding how I'm going to move forward, right? It's really about reclaiming your own power and your own ability to assign meaning as you see fit, and to assign a new narrative to whatever you're going through or whatever you've been through, in a way that empowers you, that supports you forward on your mission. And so with that, it's going to support the integration process. It's going to support creating a new story. It's going to support creating um, a new narrative that really is centered around empowerment. And that takes time. Like I said, this is not to be done necessarily all in one session, especially if you are newer, especially if you're working with someone who might not have done significant work on themselves like up until this point. If this is newer for them, this exploration, this personal development journey, actually healing their past and their nervous system. Some of these things will take time, but it can be done, especially when you have the frameworks and the methods to do it well. And so when we're talking about releasing the past, creating new stories, creating deeper integration, that takes time. And so having patience, and that willingness to be with someone, for the process, right? Creating packages and programs to support them in a longer term kind of way, for many of you will be supportive. Transformation can happen in a few weeks, but when you're doing deeper transformative work, longer programs and packages can be beneficial depending on what the goal is. And so when you're able to bring integration into each session with people, it's going to help them to anchor the changes and the transformation. And so when we think about the path to embodiment, it's really going deeper with the integration. It's really creating from a place of wholeness and not from our woundedness. And from that place of wholeness, we're able to take deeper aligned action. We're able to follow through. We're able to leave behind our self sabotage. We're able to leave behind the symptoms that that traumatic imprint produces. We're able to really step into our embodied leadership. We're able to step into our more authentic self, more consistently. Each day with clear intention, we're able to show up as the best versions of ourselves. When we're able to do that consistently, we're able to then create the lives that we want, the businesses that we want, the realities that we deeply desire. And so I pray this was helpful. We're going to have the link available tomorrow for you all to be able to download this, and it will be up on the website for you guys to download for free. Of course, you'll have it as part of the program for those of you who decide to sign up, and us go on this journey together of becoming trauma informed and trained. The practitioner program is open, and we're accepting applications. So the link will be available below in this thread. It's all over my personal Facebook page there. You can apply for the program. We are offering I am offering a comprehensive facilitation method that's going to help you create safe transformation through resolving the past, through expanded consciousness, grounded awareness, and integrating and processing through compassionate trauma resolution. And this is based on whatever you're moving through, whether it's personally, whether it's for your business, whether it's becoming more of an embodied coach that is trauma informed and that's able to apply the trauma informed framework to whatever work you are doing. I personally believe that every person needs to become trauma informed for themselves, for the people that they love, for our communities, for humanity. I believe that half the problems that we have is because we're not trauma informed as a society. And I have hope that the more trauma informed we become, the more that we can heal our world, and the more that we can really um, create a healing revolution in so many ways that are deeply needed, right? And so it's my prayer that you would decide to become trauma informed for yourself, whether it's with this program, Safe Trauma Practice, or something different. It's my intention to really support you in understanding that there's so much more to healing trauma and to supporting people with their transformation, right? Um, than just hoping things will get better for them, or just hoping that our reading some books and understanding a couple of methods are gonna, like, it's more is needed than that. Most of us have beautiful methods to support people. They're helpful, they're meaningful, and many of them are effective. Some of them are not as effective as we want them to be, as we hope they'd be, because they're not in a trauma informed framework. There is a framework that helps you to put any modality in it that can help someone really be able to then receive it in a way that is digestible. If someone's nervous system is not regulated, you can be doing the most amazing work with them and it's not going to land. It's not going to land. It's not going to help them transform because um they don't have it's almost like pouring water in a pasta colander. The water's not going to hold because um there isn't like a floor to hold the water for it to build and for it to rise. In our nervous systems, if we have all of these energy leaks, if we have all of these points of misalignment and misunderstanding, and hurt and pain and limiting beliefs that are grounded in what we feel is fact, right? When those things are all at play, it's hard to take in truth. It's hard to take in even the effectiveness of a modality if we're not believing it's true or that we're worth it or that we're deserving of being free or being healed, right? So it's like these two competing truths that are in conflict with each other. When we apply that same truth and we put that same modality into a trauma informed framework, then it's like that pasta colander, those holes get sealed up, and the good medicine that's pouring through is able to hold and rise, and really feel the person up so that they're able to really take it in, receive it, and accept it as truth, right? Sometimes we're doing the right work in the wrong way, and it's not as helpful as we'd like it to be. And so I want that to be different for you. I want your work to be highly effective for yourself in your own life, first and foremost, and with the clients that you're here to support, the clients, the students, the communities. The work that you're here to do can be more received, better received, more effective when we're able to do it in a way that people can deeply receive it and be transformed by it. And so that's all I have for tonight. I love you so much. We're going to go over the modules in the program. Um, Probably tomorrow, definitely by Tuesday. My kiddo is home tomorrow. I know many of you are on holiday tomorrow, and so Tuesday might be a better day to go over the modules. Diana, I'm so excited for you and for the amazing work that you're going to continue to do because of this program, because of the confidence, because of the tools. When we have the tools, we can so use them. Sometimes we have the knowledge and we have like the gift and the skill set, and we're unable to put it all together. That was the truth for me. It's like I felt like I had a freaking degree, and I wanted to be able to help people in extraordinary ways. And I was like, what what's the problem? Like, why are people still so stuck after our work together? And this was years ago. And what I found was that people really needed support in moving through their trauma. People weren't able to do all of the things that they wanted to do to change their life because this trauma imprint was there and it was holding everything up. And that kind of lit my fire in terms of there has to be a way to help people work through this. And there is. There are frameworks and methods. Some I have created on my own. Others are evidence based and they've been around for a long time. We're going to go through both and help you create your own and help you adopt the ones that resonate most for your style, for the work that you're doing, for the folks that you're working with, so that you feel confident and prepared to work with whoever lights you up, with whoever um, you want to work with and support, including yourself, supporting yourself in powerful ways. I'm so excited too, Diana. It is going to be a game changer. I've put so much time and energy. Um, and just like devotion into this because I want people to be free from their trauma. I want people to be free from the things that hold them back. And it is possible. It's so possible. If it's possible for me, it's possible for you. And I want each of you to be able to go out and do this great work with the people that you're meant to serve. Because I really do, with all of my heart, believe that how we make this world better for the people that we love, for children, um, whether we have our own or whether we're wanting to make the world a better place for everybody's kids, for everybody's well-being, is to really become trauma informed and help people to be able to do the same in whatever work you're doing, whether it's in the medical profession or the education profession or in coaching, right? Whatever you're doing, I think it's important to be aware that everyone has experienced trauma and we can't ignore that fact. Like it's the truth. We don't have to like it and we don't have to want to even talk about it, but it doesn't make it go away. And so when we're able to say, I have this amazing program, I have this amazing way that I work with people, and it includes helping them get free and have transformation that is sustainable, that's when you will really create the results that you're wanting in your own life, in your own business, and your people will be activated in the same way to go and do their own great work. So often we are inspired to do our work when we see other people doing theirs in good ways, in ways that we align with, in ways that we believe in, and that we can relate to. So it's so important for you to do your work in the world because there are other people who will then see you and say, if she can do it, I can do it. And I know that I want to work with her. That's how we create the ripple effect because we are better together. We're so much better together. And we can try and convince ourselves that we can do this alone. We can. We need each other. And so, if this work resonates with you, I would love for you to apply for the program. We will be honest and tell you if I feel this is a good match for you right now, or perhaps there might be a couple of things that you would want to consider doing and maybe apply for next year's cohort. I will be honest. I want this to be a win-win. I want this to be a match for you. I want it to be the right timing for you. And I also know that sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone and leap because when we're waiting for the right time for something to happen, we'll be waiting forever. When we're waiting for things to just be lined up perfectly, we'll be waiting forever. Some, oftentimes we have to leap and lead ourselves, and that's when the universe responds and backs us, and miracles happen, and the way is made. Of course, use discernment. Of course, use your best judgment, but there's no obligation to apply. Apply. I will give you feedback based on your application, and we will take it from there. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you, Diana, and for those who have already said yes and who have stepped into this container. It's going to be a really special cohort. Each cohort has its own vibe and its own energy. This one's going to be a really special one because the people who are stepping in are really, really ready to embrace their gifts, to embrace their work, to really share it. And it seems like there's a really beautiful synergy that's being created in this cohort. And so it's going to be a special one. The format for next year is going to change a little bit. And so I think the folks who jump in to this one um, will be really glad that they did. I love you so much. I will post the time that will go live on Tuesday to go over the modules, and I'll be posting more information about the modules on my page there and post, but we'll do a live on Tuesday to go over the modules with any questions that you have about that. So apply, 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 get your applications in. We will be getting back to you very soon with your feedback on the applications. If you have questions, DM me, email me. I'm here for you. I love you so much. Have a beautiful evening. I will see you online. I love you so much. Bye for now.